the Transfer of Property Act. But then you need to know that these are the essentials of a valid transfer. That first element is that the property must be transferable, which we will discuss in section 6. Then the transferor who is transferring the property, he must be a competent person. That is section 7. We'll discuss that as well. Transferee, the person who is getting the property, he must be a competent person as well. If he is disqualified to get the property, how is he disqualified to get the property, you may ask. For example, section 136 of Transfer of Property Act mentions that a judge or a practitioner or an officer of the court, if they are dealing with a case which involves a property, then they can't be a transferee. They can't purchase that property. Of course, for the reason being that if they get the property and their interest will be involved, then they would try to, probably their position would be compromised and they would not be in a position to do justice to it. So that's how a transferee can be incompetent as well. So first element is that property must be transferable. If it is not a transferable property, if the property cannot be transferred, which we'll discuss in section 6, then it cannot be transferred. Transferor, the person who is transferring, he must be a competent person. The transferee must be a competent person. The consideration, that is, ଗୋଟେ ପଇସା ଦିଆ ହଉଥିବ or କିଛି for the amount or in return of which we are transferring the property, that must be a lawful consideration. That, for example, what do you mean by lawful consideration? कि ମୁଁ ଏବେ gambling ରୁ ପଇସା ଜିତିକି ଗୋଟେ transfer କରିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି, ଗୋଟେ property କିଣିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି, that cannot be allowed because the consideration here is not lawful. ଗୋଟେ ଡକାୟତିରୁ ପଇସା ଆଣିକି I'm trying to purchase a property, the consideration here is not lawful, so that cannot be allowed. The object of the transfer, that must be lawful as well. ଗୋଟେ transfer କରୁଛି, I'm transferring a property for the purpose of opening a gambling house or a brothel, that cannot be allowed because the object of the transfer is unlawful. Must not be opposed to public policy, that is another element, and must be made in the manner and form that is required by the act, which says section 9 says that if it is prescribed in a particular manner and a particular form, if it is mandated that it must be in a written form, it must be in a registered form, then it has to be like that. Now we'll discuss the most important section, that is section 6 of the Transfer of Property Act. If you see that there are 10 exceptions to it, so basically it seems like a huge section altogether, but if you actually get the concept, I think it is very easy to know and remember as well. The general rule of transfer is that all kinds of property will be transferred and can be transferred. This is the general rule. But then there are exceptions to it, that these properties cannot be transferred. Sabu property transfer kari ho boli, it must be the rule. Why? Because if you can't transfer a property, what is the value of holding it? What is the value of owning it? If you own a property, if you are able to transfer, then only you will get the benefit out of it. So that's why the general rule is that all kinds of properties can be transferred. But then there are exceptions provided under section 6 of the Transfer of Property Act, which says otherwise, that these are the properties which you can't transfer. This is also similar to the section 60 of CPC, which says that there are certain properties which can't be attached during execution. Execution of a decree, while executing a decree, also there are certain kinds of properties you can't attach, like wearing ornaments of a woman, that can't be attached. That has been enumerated in section 60. Here in section 6, it says what kind of properties cannot be transferred. So the general rule is that all kinds of property will be transferred, except if it is barred by this act or any other law. So if TP Act prohibits that these are the properties which cannot be transferred, then they will not be transferred. If any other law for the time being in force in India, it also says that these are the properties which can't be transferred, then they won't be transferred. Other than that, all properties will be transferred. So what are the exceptions? What first is space successiveness. Is a Latin term. Space successiveness. It means that it's a chance. So if we read the Bare Act, it says that chance of an heir apparent succeeding to an estate. That I'll give you an example, but example you will be clear that गोटे heir रो गोटे chance अछि to succeed to an estate. ମାନେ ମୋର ବାପାଙ୍କର ବହୁତ ପଇସା, ମୁଁ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିଛି ଯେ ବାପାଙ୍କ ପରେ ସବୁ ଯାକ ପଇସା ମତେ ମିଳିବ और ସବୁ ପ୍ରପର୍ଟି ତାଙ୍କର ମତେ ମିଳିବ. That is a chance. That is a chance of an heir. ମୁଁ ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ପାଇନି. Whether I will, I may not also. If my dad makes a will that he wants to bequeath all his properties to a charitable institution, I may not. So it is a mere chance. That chance cannot be transferred. So basically, it is based on the rule that either the purpose. So you have to understand whenever legislature is making a rule, there is a purpose behind it. But a purpose नथि तब से खालटर करना. ଏବେ ଆପଣ କହିବେ କି ଯେ ହଁ ଚାନ୍ସ ହେଲେ କଣ ହେଲା ଚାନ୍ସ ତ ଅଛି ନା there is 90% of chance that you will get it, but then what about the rest 10%? What if he actually does not inherit it? In that case ଗୋଟେ speculation ରେ ଖାଲି ଆପଣଙ୍କର suit ବଢି ବଢି ଚାଲେ. There will be speculative suits, there will be suits which are not supposed to be there but they're there because this was allowed. So a mere chance of an heir apparent ହେଇଥାଉ ନା କାହିଁ ସେ heir ଏଟା ପୁରା ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖିଲେ ଲାଗୁଛି ହଁ ବାପାର ପୁଅ ଆଉ ମିଳିବନି ବାପାର property ଟା. Yes, it might, probably 85-90% chance is there, but what about that 10%? That's why legislature is saying after only you inherit you can transfer, but because you have a chance you can't transfer. Hindu law also says similar thing. If you read it, it says that reversioner, a Hindu reversioner cannot transfer until he actually inherits the property. So this is called space successionism, that a chance of an heir apparent, an heir whose succession chance is probably very apparent, but still there, merely because it is a chance and merely because there are possibility that he may not get it, that's why it will be prohibited to be transferred. So now the question comes that whether future offerings can be transferred. Future offerings can be transferred or not. You will answer this question at the end of the session, whether future offerings can be transferred. When I ask future offerings can be transferred, that means future offerings example ରେ ଆପଣ ବୁଝନ୍ତୁ ଯେ ଗୋଟେ ମନ୍ଦିରରେ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥ ମନ୍ଦିରରେ ସେବାୟତ ଅଛନ୍ତି. So କିଏ ସେ ଗଣେଶ ମନ୍ଦିର ପାଖରେ ଅଛି, କିଏ ବଟ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ଅଛି, କିଏ କୋଉଠି ଅଛି, ତ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ଯୋଉ ପାଳି ପଡେ, they are supposed to get all the offerings that are given to the god, they are supposed to take it. ତ ତାଙ୍କର ସେଟା ଆଲର୍ଟ ହେଇକି ଅଛି. So this is also a mere chance. So whether that chance, that future offering that can be probably he will get, probably he might not get, whether that can be transferred. So in this we'll discuss it at the end. I'll ask you please note it down that whether future offerings can be transferred. I want your opinion on this. The second part of this space succession is that chance of a relation obtaining a legacy on the death of a kinsman. This is a further remote condition. The chance of a relation obtaining a legacy on the death of a kinsman. तो एथरे तो हेयर अपेरेंट थिला, हेयर अपेरेंट रो ये को जदी प्रोहिबिट करा हैला जे गोटे निजर पुओ कथा पुओ बापर जिनसडा को पाइबार थिला, still we are prohibiting that because there is 10% chance. Here it is not even an heir, से गोटे legacy. माने suppose for example कि whether जदी मो बापा मते बापा जदी मते सबु जा माने बापा मो काका जहाकर ऑलरेडी पुओ दिटा अछंती, सी जदि तांकर चाहिबे सबु जाक विल करिकि मनारे लिखि दे पारे, he can, but then it is a very remote chance that he will choose to will all his property over his sons. So this is a further remote chance. If the heir apparent's chance is put to the ground, then obviously this will be put to ground as well. And likewise, a chance of a relation obtaining a legacy on the death of a kinsman, that is also cannot be transferred. Third is that any other mere possibility of a like nature. When they say mere possibility of a like nature, that means कि सेमती किछ गोटे चांस रे हिजो मु धरो एग्जांपल होची केबीसी रे मु गली मु मो सांगो को कहली सुन तू तो कार देइथा मु तो कार ता नौची बट मु केबीसी रे जाउची मु तो जानछु जीके फीके पढ़े जदी जाई कि सेठी जहा भी जितिली that is yours. This consideration is this the property that I'm trying to transfer in exchange of his car is the chance that I will win a certain amount in KBC that I'm participating. Yes, now you'll say कि KBC तो गले जहाल तो जितिबो, but there is a chance कि से जो first 10,000 question तो भूल दे देबो आउ से एट तो आपनकर लाइफ लाइन भी न था भूल दे देला बाहर जो तो जीरो भी पाई परे. So this is uncertain. So that's why ସେଇଟା ବି that is prohibited. Lottery re whatever I'll win in a lottery I'll give it to you. No, that can't be done. That can't be done because it is a mere chance. So space successiveness, when you say it is a chance of success. Space successiveness means it's a chance of success. There is a chance that you'll get it, but there is also a chance. It can be a great chance, it can be a small chance that you might not get it. Second exception is right of re-entry. Right of re-entry means, if I'll give you an example, you will be clear. Example is that कि गोटे लोक आउट माने मु गोटे मोर गोटे सांग को भड़ा रे देली गोटे जागा से भड़ा रे रहिला बेले जदी से भड़ा केबे न देला then I have a right to re-entry into my land because he did not pay me. So I'll say कि no you go out, I don't want it कि खालटारे पर पड़ू पछे मु खालटारे रहिबी बट मोर जदी भड़ा दोनु मु खालटारे तते काई रखिबी तू सेठी कोन कर तू हाउ विल आई नो. So that is a right of re-entry. That right of re-entry cannot be transferred. कि जदी right of re-entry सेते पई भी रहिला कि for breach of a condition subsequent, that is कि मु गोटे पुट कली that जदी तमे एटा एई जिंसटा कल्लो ताहाले सेठु तो भड़ा रहि परिबुनी सेठु बाहर जिवो. That मु सेठी right of re-entry मोर अछि. That right of re-entry cannot be transferred. But then yes, right of re-entry can be transferred when it is being transferred to the actual owner. Suppose मु आसी कि एबे लीज रे गोटे जिंस रखिछि एबे मु सबलीज करूछि सबलीज कला बेले सपोज ता पाखरे भी मोर राइट ऑफ री-एंट्री अछि बट राइट ऑफ री-एंट्री टा मु ओनर को जदी चाहिबी ओरिजिनल ओनर ताकू देई परिबी किंतु राइट ऑफ री-एंट्री आउ को थर्ड पर्सन को देई परिबी खाली ओरिजिनल ओनर को राइट ऑफ री-एंट्री देई हबो आउ का को देई हबोनी. ऑफ कोर्स जदी मु से प्रॉपर्टी इटसेल्फ आई एम ट्रांसफरिंग, of course with it the right of re-entry goes as well, but right of re-entry alone cannot be transferred except to the owner himself. Now comes easement. Whether a right of easement can be transferred. What is an easement? That you probably do not have any right over a property but you still enjoy certain kind of privilege or interest over that property. That is called an easementary right. Example I gave you probably yesterday that मो घर को आसिया पे गोटे पब्लिक रोड पड़ीची पब्लिक रोड टा मोर नो गवर्नमेंट रो but still then I have an easementary right because if I don't access it I don't have a way to my house. मु बाहर बुलतिबी सेठी मु तो चारियाडे बुलतिबी किंतु जदी मु कहबी जे without using anyone's road I'll enter my house, that is not possible. I'll have to use someone's road. So the way that I am using, that is an easementary right. So that easementary right that I have I cannot transfer. Example, मु घरे रोची मोर गोटे राइट अछि राइट ऑफ इजमेंट ओवर आ गोटे लोकर जागा ऊपर मु चली के आसुची मु कहली अच्छा मु घरे तो अछि मु तबे रहउनी तोर घरे रह कि न रह सेटा पॉइंट नै तू सेई जो रोड ऊपर जो जीवासिया मु करे तू से रोड रे ऊपर जीवासिया सेई राइट टा मु तो ट्रांसफर करछि. नो, दैट राइट इटसेल्फ कैन नॉट बी ट्रांसफर. ऑफ कोर्स जदी मु घरटा को ट्रांसफर करली with that the easementary right will go, but khali right of easement if I want to transfer, that can't be transferred. The act uses the word dominant heritage. What is a dominant heritage? What is a recessive heritage? What is a dominant heritage gote recessive heritage gote kon seta concept होची dominant heritage माने कोन the property which is जहा पाई इजमेंटरी राइट अछि सेटा होची dominant heritage ए घरटा अछि बोली बी रो रास्ता ऊपर मु जाई परुची तनु घरटा होची dominant heritage से बी रो रास्ता जहा ऊपर मु इजमेंटरी राइटटा एक्सरसाइज करूची दैट इज ए रिसेसिव हेरिटेज सो dominant heritage जदि ट्रांसफर करूची ताहले राइट ऑफ इजमेंट over the recessive heritage will also be transferred. But if the dominant heritage transfer no karuchi, only the easementary right over the recessive heritage that I can't transfer. That section prohibits.
सर
Now come
डोमिनेंट हेरिटेज और सर्विएंट हेरिटेज टिके एक्सप्लेन करिवे सर मते प्लीज
you can call it servient heritage as well. You can call it recessive heritage as well. And again, mujadi you have to know कि dominant heritage कौन recessive heritage कौन dominant heritage होची simply कहली गोटे जागा होची गोटे जागा मोर अछि ता पाखरे आ गोटे जागा अछि ए प्लॉट बी प्लॉट दीटा लागि लागि अछि ए प्लॉट को जिबा पे हेले मते बी प्लॉट ऊपर आसिया को पड़े दैट तणु जो ए प्लॉट टा अछि जहा पाई मु बी प्लॉट ऊपर से इजमेंटरी राइट टा एक्सरसाइज करूची से ए प्लॉट टा हला डोमिनेंट हेरिटेज ताकू सहित अटैच है कि जोटा अछि जहा जहा ऊपर मु इजमेंटरी राइट टा एक्सरसाइज करूची दैट इज सर्विएंट हेरिटेज कि और रिसेसिव हेरिटेज काहे कि एने से सर्व करूची काहे ना से रिसेस भलिया दोची काहे ना सीएडी सर्व करूची एन्जॉय के करूची डोमिनेंट हेरिटेज बट कहा ऊपर करूची सी सर्विएंट हेरिटेज और रिसेसिव हेरिटेज ऊपर so that
सर थैंक यू सर
तो here the
क्लियर
जदि
सर
आपको ट्रांसफर करे अछि डोमिनेंट हेरिटेज ट्रांसफर करंतु along with
सर
that the easementary right will be transferred but you can't transfer easementary right alone. Okay, now coming to restricted interest, whether any restricted interest that can be transferred or not. जदि गोटे interest को already restriction दिया है ता ऊपर जे you will enjoy it in a particular manner or it has been restricted that you will enjoy it it will be enjoyed by a particular person, then in that case that interest cannot be transferred as well. Suppose जो example देली पुरी मंदिर रे सेवायत कर right अछि to serve Lord Jagannath, only they can worship it. जगन्नाथ तांकर almost नहीं ओडिसा लोकर समस्तकर but they believe that कि सेमानकर भलिया but then it is ओडिसा समस्तकर but सेमानकर right अछि पूजा करियार एबे ये कहबो सेवायत आसी कहबे अच्छा ठीक अछि एबे तू मु आजी राम को कहूची राम जाकी मो पे पूजा कर that can't be transferred because they जो interest over that property that has been restricted in its enjoyment to the owner personally. जो लोक को अछि सेही लोक ही सेवायत सेही लोक ही पूजा करिवो एबे आउट लोक देई परिबेनी जे नहीं तुमे जाई पूजा कर that is not allowed by law. So if it is a restricted interest where it has been restricted that the interest in the property will be enjoyed by the owner personally, then that cannot be transferred as well. Fifth is right to future maintenance. Right to future maintenance कौन simply गोटे स्त्री टे जाकी गोटे डीवी केस टे कला डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस केस टे कला ता भाई हस्बैंड अगेंस्ट से गोटे सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ मेंटेनेंस पाइबो तो वो कंपेंसेशन पाइबो मेंटेनेंस पाइबो से जो मेंटेनेंस तारो पाई पारे पाइबो मे बी पाइबो भी मे बी 90% चांस किसी पाइबो एक्सेप्ट जदी तारो शी इज एबल टू मेंटेन हरसेल्फ तारो जो जहां भी क्राइटेरिया आसी से सब अलग कथा परे पडिया जला में सीआरपीसी रो 125 पडिया so then jodi suppose tar ote right achi to get a maintenance in that case as well it cannot be transferred because it is a future right. There is 1% chance that she might not get it. That's why such right will not be allowed to be transferred. But yes, जब maintenance थरे दिया है जाइछि कोर्ट दे देला मेंटेनेंस गोटे डिक्री दे देला कि जे एटा होची मेंटेनेंस तुमको एति टका पाइबो then that can be transferred. Say जो amount due ta that amount can be transferred. But future maintenance, no, you can't transfer future maintenance. The reason always is it law always uh, promotes that the transfers that are being done should be carried out smoothly. So जो transfer है जाइछि सेटा जेंति पूरा well and good था आ ट्रांसफर हेतिबो देखला बेलको काल सकाळे प्रॉब्लम होतबो बेसिकली सिटीजन्स को जत्ते कम प्रॉब्लम फेस करिया दैट इज द रीजन कोर्ट भी टिके जदि रहउछि से माने कहउछन्ति कि this is not allowed to be transferred. Now comes mere right to sue. Mere right to sue is ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ in respect of something you have a right to sue. Suppose ମୋ car କୁ କିଏ ମୋ ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ହଉଛି ମୁଁ ମ୍ୟାଚ୍ ଦେଖୁଥିଲି, ମୁଁ ମ୍ୟାଚ୍ ଦେଖିଲା ବେଳକୁ ଗୋଟେ ବଲ୍ ଆସିକି ବାଜିଲା, ସେଥିରେ ତ ଏକ୍ସେପସନ ପଳେଇ ଆସିବ ଟର୍ଟ ର, ବଟ୍ ଆଇ ଏମ୍ ଷ୍ଟିଲ୍ गिविंग एन एग्जांपल କି ଗୋଟେ ଟର୍ଟ ହେଲା ଫର ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକ କିଛି ଡେଞ୍ଜରସ୍ ପ୍ରିମିସ୍ ରଖିଥିଲା, ଫର ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଗୋଟେ ଟାଇଗର ରଖିଥିଲା, ସେ ଟାଇଗର ଟା କଣ କଲା ନା ବାହାରିକି ପଳେଇଲା, ଆସିକି ମୋ ଛୁଆକୁ ଖାଇଦେଲା। So a tort is committed କାହିଁକିନା ସେ ଲୋକ ତ ପର୍ସନାଲି ମାରିନି, but for though it is not a crime but it is a tort. Now I have a right to sue. This right to sue cannot be transferred. I cannot say that ଠିକ ଅଛି ମୋର ତା against ଗୋଟେ tortious claim କରିବାର right ଥିଲା, this I am transferring it to some other person. No, that can't be allowed. If this is allowed, then it will be ମାନେ ଆହୁରି ବେଶୀ problematic ହବ। ସେଥିପାଇଁ mere right to sue cannot be transferred. ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକକୁ ଲତା ମଙ୍ଗେଶକରକୁ କଣ୍ଟାକ୍ଟ କରିଥିଲି କି ଆସିକି ମୋ ୱେଡିଂ ରେ ଗୀତ ଗାଇବା, ଲତା ମଙ୍ଗେଶକର ଆସିଲେ, for some reason she did not come, though she has passed away, I shouldn't have given her example, but then she ଯଦି ସେ ଆସିଲେ ତାହେଲେ ତାହେଲେ ମୋର ଗୋଟେ ଏବେ ରାଇଟ୍ ଅଛି ଟୁ ସୁ ଲତା ମଙ୍ଗେଶକର ଜି for the breach of the contract. In that case, that right that I have, that I can't transfer. Another question I put to you, that whether actionable claim can be transferred or not, because actionable claim रे भी तो ଗୋଟେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର right ଅଛି, whether that can be transferred or not, please answer me at the end of the session. Okay, note it down, please, someone note it down. The other question was whether future offerings can be transferred. Now whether actionable claim can be transferred. Okay, now third is now the next part is that
Sir, please give me the definition of actionable claim, sir. Is outstanding rent is actionable claim, sir? Is any written document is required or not, sir, in actionable claim, sir?
were you not there in the previous class yesterday?
Sir,
କାଲି ତ
I don't attend, sir, yesterday, sir.
okay, actionable claim ମୁଁ କାଲି ପଢେଇଥିଲି. It is
Sir,
an unsecured money debt. ଗୋଟେ debt ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ ମୋର କିଛି ଉଧାର ଅଛି, but ସେଟା ଗୋଟେ secure ହେଇନି, ଗୋଟେ mortgage ହେଇନି କି hypothecation ହେଇନି or pledge ହେଇନି, ତ ବେସିକାଲି ମୁଁ କାହାକୁ ଗୋଟେ ପଇସା ଦେଲି କିନ୍ତୁ ତାକୁ କିଛି ସିକ୍योର କରିବା ଭୁଲି ଯାଇଛି, ମୁଁ ଯୋଉଟା କି ସବୁବେଳେ ହୁଏ, ଆମେ ସାଙ୍ଗମାନଙ୍କୁ ପଇସା ଦଉ କିନ୍ତୁ କିଛି ସିକ୍ୟୁରିଟି ରଖୁନି। In that case, that debt ଯୋଉଟା ଆମେ ଦେଇଛୁ, that is not secure. In that case, that is an actionable.
sir, कौन
Okay,
outstanding rent भी unsecured actionable claim है बस, sir?
outstanding rent.
Sir,
Outstanding rent as in what?
sir, ମାନେ rent amount due ହେଇଯାଇଛି
Yes,
ତାକୁ
yes,
owner
yes. That is
claim କରିବ।
that is that is somehow an actionable claim as well. But then
Sir, ମୁଁ
that must be
ଭଡାରେ ଅଛି, ମୁଁ
that
ଭଡାରେ
must be
ଅଛି,
with
ମାସେ
respect to
ହେଲା
the
ଦେଇନି,
movable property.
ଭଡା
That
ଦେଇନି ଆଉ, sir,
ନାଇଁ ଘର ଭଡା ନଦେଲେ ସେଟା actionable claim କେମିତି ହବ? କାହିଁକିନା actionable claim ର definition ଆମେ ପଢିଥିଲେ ଯେ ହବ ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ movable property respect ରେ ଥିବ, that is another thing. But immovable property respect ରେ ଆପଣ you can't claim actionable claim. Okay.
okay, sir.
Now, right to sue merged in a decree can be transferred as it's not a mere right to sue. तो ଏଇଥିରେ କହିଲା, ଏଥିରେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ଜାଣିବାକୁ ରହିବ, ଯଦି right to sue ଟା merge ହେଇଗଲା ଗୋଟେ decree ରେ, then that decree that can be transferred, because ସେଥିରେ ଖାଲି right to sue ନାହିଁ, ସେଥିରେ ଗୋଟେ decree ଥିଲା, ତା ସହିତ ଅଲଗା ଜିନିଷ ଥିଲା, ତା ସହିତ right to sue ଟା merge ହେଇଛି। So mere right to sue, you have to just remember कि mere right to sue ଯଦି ଥିବ, then that can't be transferred. Now coming to the other part, that is public office or salary of a public officer, that can't be transferred. The logic is very simple. कि ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକକୁ କୁହାଯାଇଥିଲା ତହସିଲଦାର appoint କରାଯାଇଛି, ସେ ଯଦି ତା ସ୍ତ୍ରୀକୁ, the example will be ପଞ୍ଚାୟତ, if everyone was watched ପଞ୍ଚାୟତ season 2, ସେଥିରେ ପ୍ରଧାନ ଜି ଜଣେ ଥିବେ କିନ୍ତୁ actual ପ୍ରଧାନ ଭଳିଆ କାମ ଆଉ ଜଣେ କରୁଥିବେ, ମାନେ actual ପ୍ରଧାନ ଜଣେ ଥିବ but ପ୍ରଧାନ ଜି must be discharging the function who would be the husband, କାହିଁକିନା ସେ ରୁଲ ନେଇ ଆସିଲେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କି women କୋଟା ଏଇ ପଞ୍ଚାୟତ ରୁ ହେବେ, ତ ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀକୁ ଠିଆ କରିକି ସେ ନିଜେ କର। So that public office जो transfer कर दो यदि, for example, that can't be allowed. Or salary of a public officer, if that can be transferred or not, no, that can't be allowed. Stipends allowed to army, navy, air force or pension of a government or political pensioners, that can't be transferred as well. Simply put, why? Because ସେମାନେ ଏତେ ସର୍ଭ କରିଛନ୍ତି, ତାଙ୍କ ପେନସନ ଟାକୁ ଆମେ ଆଉ କାହାକୁ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରିଦବୁ। No, that shouldn't be allowed because ସିଏ ଆସିଲା ପରେ ସେ ଯାହାକୁ ଦଉଛନ୍ତି ଦିଅନ୍ତୁ, ବଟ୍ ସେମିତି ଷ୍ଟାଇପେଣ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରିକି ଆଉ କାହାକୁ ଦବ, no, that can't be. Next is if it is opposed to the nature affected thereby. Example କଣ, ଯେ ମୁଁ କହିବି ଆଜିଠୁ ରାଉରକେଲାରେ ଯେତେ ଏୟାର ଅଛି ସବୁ ତୋର, that I can't do because air can't be transferred. I'll say ki jaha light surjor asu sabu toro, that can't be transferred. That is res communis. Res communis cannot be transferred. That is property of all. That can't be contained, that can't be transferred. That ସମସ୍ତେ ୟୁଜ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ସମସ୍ତେ ଏନ୍ଜୟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ତାର ନେଚର ହିଁ ଏମିତିଆ କି ତାକୁ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରିପାରିବ। Then that case you can't transfer. Again, res nullius, that can be transferred. Res nullius is property of no one. Res communis is property of all. Res nullius is property of no one. Res nullius also can't be transferred. So ଗୋଟେ ଷଣ୍ଢ ଅଛି, ଷଣ୍ଢଟେ ବୁଲୁଛି ବାହାରେ, the ଷଣ୍ଢ is a res nullius. Then ox is a res nullius. ସେ ox ଟାକୁ ମୁଁ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରିପାରିବି। I can't say କି ଆଜିଠୁ ଷଣ୍ଢ ତୋର, ମୁଁ ତୋ ପାଇଁ ତା ବଦଳରେ ମୁଁ 10,000 ଟଙ୍କା ମରିବି। No, I can't transfer that because that is not my property or anyone's property for that matter. Again, second part of this subsection is that object or consideration, if it is unlawful under section 23 of Indian Contract Act, then that can't be transferred. ଯଦି ମୁଁ ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର ଟା କରୁଛି ତାର ଅବଜେକ୍ଟ ଟା ଅନଲଫୁଲ और consideration ଟା unlawful, I like I told you, ବ୍ରଥେଲ ଖୋଲିବାକୁ କରିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି, or consideration ମାନେ ମୁଁ gambling ରୁ ପଇସା ଆଣିକି କିଣିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି, no, that can't be allowed. Next is person legally disqualified to be a transfer. Example ଦେଇଥିଲି, ଗୋଟେ judge practitioner section 136 ରେ କହିଛି, judge practitioner or officer connected with courts of justice while dealing with a case of actionable claim over a property, that they can't be a transfer. ମାନେ ସେମାନେ ଯଦି ଏବେ କିଣିଦେବେ, they'll be biased automatically. ଏବେ ତ ମୋର ଜାଗା ନା, ମୁଁ କେମିତି ଚାହିଁବି କେମିତି ମୋ ଫେଭରରେ ଗାଇବା ପାଇଁ. So if I'm a practitioner, if I'm a judge, if I'm an officer of the court, then I shouldn't be allowed to become a transferee in that case. Next subsection is untransferable interest. କୋଉ interest ଗୁଡା transferable interest ନୁହଁ, ଯେ right of occupancy of a tenant. ମୁଁ ଭଡାରେ ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକକୁ ଦେଇଛି, ସିଏ କାଲି ସକାଳେ କଣ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକକୁ ଭଡା ଦେଇଦବ ନା ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକକୁ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରିଦବ, that shouldn't be allowed. ସେମିତି ହେଲେ ଯେମିତି ଚାଲିଥିବ n number of times, ମାନେ ସେଟା ଗୋଟେ କଣ ଯୋଉ ଯେମିତି କଣ ଆମର କ୍ରିଷ୍ଟୋଫର ନୋଲାନର ମୁଭିରେ ଯେମିତି ଡ୍ରିମ୍ ୱିଦିନ ଏ ଡ୍ରିମ୍ ୱିଦିନ ଏ ଡ୍ରିମ୍, ସେମିତି rent within a rent within a rent ଚାଲିବ, and it will be very very difficult to manage. So you can't do that. The right of an occupancy of a tenant, that can't be transferred. Tenant କାଲି ସକାଳେ ଆସିକି କହିପାରିବନି ଯେ ତମେ ମତେ ଭଡା ଦେଇଥିଲ ଯେ ମୁଁ ତାକୁ ଭଡା ଦେଇ ଦେଇଛି, ସିଏ ପଇସା ଦେଲେ ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ଦେବି। No, 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 you can't do that. Right of a farmer of an estate in which revenue payment has been defaulted. ଗୋଟେ farmer ର ଗୋଟେ land ଅଛି, but ତା respect ରେ ଯୋଉ ଖଜଣା ଦେବା କଥା, ଯୋଉ tax ଦେବା କଥା, ଯୋଉ revenue ଦେବା କଥା, ସେଟା ସେ ଦେଇନି। In that case, that can't be transferred as well. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ବି କହିଲା lessee of an estate under management of court of wards. Court of wards ରେ ତାକୁ manage କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ lessee କୁ appoint କରାହେଇଛି କି ସିଏ ଯେ estate ଟାକୁ manage କରିବ ବୋଲି ଗୋଟେ lesser ମାନେ ଲୋକକୁ appoint କରାହେଇଛି। ତାକୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ lessee କୁ ଦିଆହେଲା ଭଡା, ସେଇ lessee ଟା ସେ ଭିତରେ transfer କରିବ। It is exactly similar to the tenant example that I gave you. tenant ବି ଦେଇପାରିବନି, farmer ବି ଦେଇପାରିବନି, lessee ବି ଦେଇପାରିବନି, କାରଣ ତାଙ୍କର limited interest। ସେଠି ସେମାନେ ଯଦି ପୁଣି transfer କରିବେ, it will be creating problem as well. Now we'll discuss section 7, that who is a person who is competent to transfer. Person competent to contract is a person who is competent to transfer. Simply put, कि गोटे जे contract କରିବାକୁ competent ଅଛି according to the section 11 contract act, କିଏ competent, major ହୋଇଥିବା ଦରକାର, sound mind ହେଇଥିବା ଦରକାର, not disqualified by law ହେଇଥିବା ଦରକାର, ମାନେ insolvent ହେଇନଥିବ, ଆଉ କଣ ଯୋଉ ବି law ରେ ଇଏରେ disqualified ହେଇନଥିବ। In that case, he is a person competent to contract. So this a person is competent to contract, then he may transfer the property subject to condition तार से property ଉପରେ entitlement ଥିବ, or he is authorized to dispose of the property. Either he is entitled to the property or he is authorized to dispose of the property. Then only if the person who is competent to contract can transfer it, either wholly or partly, either absolutely or conditionally. ମାନେ ଯଦି ପୁରା property ଚାହିଁବ transfer କରିପାରିବ, ଅଧା ପ୍ରପର୍ଟି ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରିପାରିବ, ପୁରା ଦେଇ ପାରିବ କି ନାଇଁ ତୁ ତୋର ଏଇଟା, ଅର କହିବ କଣ୍ଡିସନାଲି କି ଭଡାରେ ରହ କି ଲିଜ ଦିଏ କି ତୁ ଏମିତି ଏତିକି ଦିନ ପାଇଁ ରହ କି ମତେ ଗୋଟେ ସଲ୍ୟୁସନ ଦେ। I can do anything that I want if the property belongs to me, or if it is not belonging to me, I am authorized to transfer that property. Then if I am a person who is competent to contract, that is a major person, sound mind, not disqualified by law, then I can very well transfer the property. But yes, of course, it must be to the extent and in the manner prescribed by the law. So जो manner रे prescribe ହେଇଛି law रे, that must be followed. Section 8 is operation of transfer, that unqualified or unconditional transfer. जदि गोटे ट्रांसफर हैला जोटा कि किछि भी कंडीशन पुट हेइनी, किछि भी क्वालिटी और किछि भी क्वालिफिकेशन पुट हेइनी, then that case it is an unconditional transfer. That means it's an absolute transfer. The absolute transfer रे all interests are conveyed to the transfer. जहां ट्रांसफरर पाखरे इंटरेस्ट थिला, all such interest will be automatically passed on to the transferee. And when I say all interest, that also means the legal incidents attached to the property that has been transferred. And what are the legal incidents? Legal incidents can be anything कि ता ऊपरे और ता सहित अटैच है कि किछि भी अछि और ता पाई किछि जिंस मिलुछि. फॉर एग्जांपल से जागा पाई आई एम गेटिंग ए रेंट, और से जागा अछि बोली आई एम गेटिंग ए प्रॉफिट, और से जागा अछि बोली आई हैव एन इजमेंटरी राइट ओवर ए सर्विएंट हेरिटेज, और से जागा रे गोटे घर अछि, और से जागा रे जो घर अछि से घर रे बहुत गोटे लागिछि डोर विंडो ऑल ऑफ दैट इज अटैच्ड, और से जागा ऊपर गोटे नलकूप अछि, और से जागा ऊपर गोटे कूओ अछि, और जागा ऊपर जागा अच्छी बोली किसी इनकम मोर आसुची. All these are legal incidents. Legal incidents are nothing but the incidents that are arising because the property exists. तो सही property ପାଇଁ ଯାହା ବି incident ଅଛି those are legal. ସେଇ ଯୋଉ legal incidents ଯାହା ଗୁଡା ସେଇ ସବୁ ଗୁଡା transfer ହେଇଯିବ if it is an absolute transfer. But if it is not an absolute transfer, ଆମେ କେମିତି ଜାଣିବା how to know that whether it is an absolute transfer or a conditional transfer? That can be only known if we read the instrument as a whole and the circumstances in which it has been transferred. This is basically a very not important section, but you have to know that what is the operation of transfer. Now, section 9, oral transfer. That it says that yes, property can be transferred orally, but yes, subject to the condition that if it is not required by this act to be transferred in a written form. ଯଦି ଅଛି କି written form ରେ transfer ହବ, then ସେଟା written form ରେ. ଯଦି orally transfer ମାନେ କିଛି ସେମିତି ନାହିଁ ଯେ written form ରେ ହବା mandatory, then it can be transferred orally. For example, movable properties, it can be transferred orally. Immovable properties of less than 100 rupees, they can be transferred orally. ଏ ସବୁ ଆମେ फ्यूचर ରେ पढ़िबा, ଯେତେବେଳେ पढ़िबा ସେ ସବୁ पढ़िबा जे କୋଉ କୋଉ property କେମିତି transfer ହେଇଥାଏ. Now comes condition restraining alienation, section 10. Section 10 कहला जे reasonable condition. Section 10 ର basically section 10 11 ଦିଟାକ almost similar condition. 10 11 12 ତିନିଟାକ similar light ରେ we have to read. 10 କହୁଛି କଣ that କେତେବେଳେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ transfer କରୁଛେ ସେତେବେଳେ we can put condition of course transfer ଯେତେବେଳେ transfer କରୁଛି ତା transfer ଟା ତା ଜମିଟା ତାର attach ଥିବ, ସେ ତାର କେତେ ମାନେ ମେ ବି ତାର ଯୋଉ କୁହନ୍ତି ଯୋଉ କଣ ଭିଟା ମାଟି ମାନେ ସେ ପୂର୍ବରୁ କାହା ସହିତ inherit କରିଥିବ. So all those things that has to be kept in mind. ତାର emotion ସେଥି ସହିତ attach ଅଛି, ତ ସେ transfer ସେ ସବୁ କଲା ବେଳକୁ କିଛି condition put କରୁଛି ଯେ ନାଇଁ ନାଇଁ ତମେ କଲା ବେଳକୁ ଏମିତି ତାକୁ ଜଗିକି ରଖି ଚଳିବ, ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ଦଉଛି ତା ମାନେ ନୁହେଁ ଯେ ତମେ ଏଠି ଗ୍ୟାମ୍ବଲିଂ ହାଉସ ଖୋଲିବ ରହିବ, और ତମେ ସେଠି ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରଫିଲ ଖୋଲିବ, और ତାର ମାଇନିଂ କରିକି ସବୁ ଯାକ କୋଲ ସାର ଦବ, ମୁଁ ଲିଜ ଦଉଛି ବଟ ତା ମାନେ ନୁହେଁ ଯେ ତମେ ସବୁ ଯାକ ଲିଜ ସାର ଦବ. ସେ ସବୁ ଯେମିତି ମୁଁ କିଛି ମାନେ ଦଉଛି ट्रांसफर कला बेलू कंडीशन दैट इज वैलिड, बट एमिति ट्रांसफर कला बेलू जदि मु किछि कंडीशन पुट करूची व्हिच एब्सोल्युटली टेक्स अवे द पावर ऑफ एलिनेशन ऑफ द ट्रांसफर, कहि देबी जे मु ए प्रॉपर्टी दोची बट तमे काहाकू मु ए बी को प्रॉपर्टी ट्रांसफर कला कहला कि तू बी केबे भी काहाकू बिकी परिबु ना, दैट इज एब्सोल्युटली टेकिंग अवे द पावर ऑफ एलिनेशन ऑफ द ट्रांसफरी. That condition will be treated as if that condition does not exist. Suppose मु से ट्रांसफर जो कला बेलू से डीड रे पूरा लिखिली कि जे मु ट्रांसफर करूची subject to condition he can never transfer this property to anyone. This is an absolute condition. and this is taking away the power of the transferee to alienate or to dispose of the property as a whole. କେବେ ବି ସେ transfer କରିପାରିବନି ଆଉ ତାହେଲେ ତାର value କଣ ରହିଲା ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକ କିଣୁଛି ଯଦି ସେ ବିକିବନି ପରେ ତାହେଲେ ତାର ତ କିଛି ତାକୁ ପଇସା ମିଳିଲାନି ତାହେଲେ ତାର ପ୍ରଫିଟ ତାର କିଛି ହେଲାନି ନା ରିଏଲ ପ୍ରଫିଟ ସେ ଜାଗାଟାକୁ ଧରି କଣ ସେ କରିବ ତ in that case this which is absolutely taking away the power of alienation that is not allowed. Exception କଣ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଲିଜ୍ ଗୋଟେ ହଉଛି ଆଉ lesser is putting a condition that the lessee cannot transfer to particular person or for a particular period and the such condition is for the benefit of the lesser that जो ଯିଏ ଲିଜ୍ ଦେଇଛି ତାର ବେନିଫିଟ ପାଇଁ ସେ ଗୋଟେ କଣ୍ଡିସନ ପୁଟ୍ କଲା that ନାଇଁ ତମେ ନଉଛ ଲିଜ୍ ରେ ନିଅ କିନ୍ତୁ ତମେ ଏମିତି କରିପାରିବନି और ଏମିତି କିଛି ଗୋଟେ ଏମିତି ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ଦେଇପାରିବ ନାହିଁ or ଏମିତି ଏତେ ଆଟଲିଷ୍ଟ 99 years ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ତମେ କାହାକୁ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରିପାରିବ ତ ସେମିତି କିଛି ଗୋଟେ କଣ୍ଡିସନ ପୁଟ୍ କରୁଛି that is fine that is for the benefit of the lesser so that can be put but ଆପଣ ପୁରା absolutely taking away the right of the alienation that can't be put ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ exception ବି ଅଛି that ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରାହଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ମ୍ୟାରିଡ୍ ୱୁମନ୍ କୁ ଆଉ ତାକୁ କୁହାହଉଛି that ସେଇ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ର ସବସିଷ୍ଟେନ୍ସ ରେ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ଯେପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଏକ୍ଜିଷ୍ଟ କରୁଛି you can't transfer that property to some other person that is also allowed such condition will be valid so generally speaking reasonable condition can be imposed but conditions which is absolutely taking away the power of alienation that will not be allowed the exception is that less what lease re lesser condition put kar paribo tar benefit pai that ki lessee certain persons को किंवा certain period ପାଇଁ transfer କରିବନି that is fine and transfer to a married woman ତାକୁ କୁହାହବ କି ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ର ସବସିଷ୍ଟେନ୍ସ ରେ ତମେ transfer କରିପାରିବନି that is also allowed but then this transfer to a married woman clause it is not applicable to Hindu Muslims and Buddhists ତାମାନେ ଅଲଗା ଲୋକ ଯିଏ ଥିବେ Christians Jains Sikhs ଏଇ ସବୁ ଆଉ ଯିଏ ଥିବେ ତାଙ୍କୁ applicable ହେଇପାରିବ but Hindu Muslim and Buddhist କୁ ଏ ଯୋଉ transfer to a married woman ସେଇ clause ଟା applicable now coming to section 11 it is in similar light to section 10 which is saying that ସେଟା ତ କହିଲା କି ଯେ alienation power ଟାକୁ ମୁଁ ସେଠି ନଉଥିଲି ଏଠି ମୁଁ କହିଲି କି particular way ରେ ତମେ enjoy କରିବ और ଏଇ way ରେ ତମେ enjoy କରିପାରିବ ନାହିଁ ତ ସେଇ ଯୋଉଟା ଯଦି ଯଦି ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଏଇ way ରେ enjoy କରିବ ନାହିଁ that is fine but ମୁଁ କହିବି ଖାଲି ତମେ ଏଇ purpose ରେ ହିଁ ଏମିତି ହିଁ enjoy କରିବ ତାହେଲେ ହବନି ମାନେ ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ transfer କଲି ମୋ ଜାଗାଟାକୁ ମୁଁ ଭଡାରେ ଦେଇଛି ତ ଭଡାଟିଆକୁ ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଡୋର ସବୁବେଳେ ଖୋଲା କରି ରହିବ ଗ୍ୟାସ୍ ଯୋଉ ଇଣ୍ଡକ୍ସନ ତ ଛାଡ ଗ୍ୟାସ୍ ବି ନାହିଁ ଚୁଲିରେ ରୋଷେଇ କରିବ ତମେ ଆଉ ବାଥରୁମ ୟୁଜ କରିବନି ବାଥରୁମ ବାହାରକୁ ଯିବ all these conditions I am putting which are unreasonable I am putting this only to harass the person this is not even a reasonable condition ମୁଁ କହିବି ତାକୁ ତମେ ସବୁବେଳେ ଯେମିତି ମୋର ଆକ୍ସେସ ରହିବା ଦରକାର ତମ ଘରକୁ ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଚାହିଁବି ତମ ଘରକୁ ପଶିପାରିବି ତମ ଘରକୁ ମୋ ଘର ଯୋଉ ଡୋରଟା ଲାଗିଛି ଉପରେ ରହୁଛି ନା ଉପରେ ସିଏ ରହୁଛି ତଳେ ମୁଁ ରହୁଛି ମୁଁ ତାକୁ କହିଲି କି ଉପରେ ଯୋଉ ଅଛି ତାକୁ ତମେ ତମ ଘରଟା ଖାଲି ରହିବ ସେ ଯୋଉ ଗୋଟେ ମଝିରେ ଗୋଟେ ଡୋରଟା ଅଛି ସେଟା ସବୁବେଳେ ଖୋଲା ରହିବ ତମେ ସେଠି କଣ କରିବ ମୁଁ କେମିତି ଜାଣିବି ଏମିତି ଯୋଉ କହିଲି to enjoy it in a particular manner such condition will be treated as if it is not exist that condition will be null and void exception ଗୋଟେ କଣ ଆର ବି ଗୋଟେ exception ଅଛି ଯେ yes enjoy it in a particular manner I can't say but yes I can say that you have to enjoy it in a particular manner and that will be valid କେତେବେଳେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେଇ ଏମିତି ଗୋଟେ dominant heritage servant heritage concept ଭଳିଆ but that is not exactly dominant and servant heritage ଏଠି ଦିଟା property ଅଛି A ଆଉ B ଦିଟା property ଅଛି A ଆଉ B ଦିଟା property ରୁ ଦିଟା ଲାଗି ଲାଗି ଅଛି B ଟାରେ B ର ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାଟା ଅଛି A ରେ ମୁଁ ଘର କରିଦେଇଛି ଦେଖିଲି ମୋର ଜାଗାଟା ବି ଦରକାର ନାହିଁ ଖାଲିଟାରେ ପଡିଛି କିଛି ପଇସା ପକେଇଦେଲେ ଘରଟାକୁ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ବଢେଇ ପାରିବି କଣ କରିପାରିବି that's why I sold off the B property or B land I sold off now I have A adjoining to that there is a land B but I have disposed of that land but say dispose କଲା ବେଳକୁ ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଦେଖ ମୋର ଘରର ୱେଷ୍ଟ ସାଇଡ ରେ ୱିଣ୍ଡୋ ଖୋଲା ହେଇଛି ତମେ ସେପଟକୁ ହିଁ ଘରଟାକୁ ଏତେ ଲମ୍ବା କରିଦବନି କି ମୋର ଲାଇଟ୍ ହିଁ ପଡିବ और ତମେ ସେପଟକୁ ହିଁ ୱିଣ୍ଡୋ ପୁଣି ଖୋଲିଦବନି ଆମ ୱିଣ୍ଡୋ ତମ ୱିଣ୍ଡୋ ସାମ୍ନା ସାମ୍ନି ହବ ପ୍ରାଇଭେସି ହ୍ୟାମ୍ପର ହବ ତମେ ଏଟା କରିବ this is a good condition why because it is for the interest of one property adjoined to another for the enjoyment of that property this condition can be put and this condition is a valid condition now coming to section 12 condition making interest determinable on insolvency or attempted alienation so ଏଟା କଣ କହିଲା that the section itself speaks that କି ଯାହା ବି ସେଇ heading ରୁ ପଢିଲେ ବି ଜଣା ପଡୁଛି that ଯଦି ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ condition put କରୁଛି that the interest that have bequeathed or the interest that have transferred or alienated, that will be determined or that will come to an end upon insolvency, or ଯଦି ମୁଁ try ବି କରିବି ତାକୁ transfer କରିବା ପାଇଁ ତାହେଲେ ବି ସେ ଯୋଉ interest ଆମର ଅଛି that will be void or that will be determined, then such condition will be null and void. Exception, again exception is lease for the benefits of the lessor. Lease ଦେଲା ବେଳକୁ ଆପଣଙ୍କର basically lease holder rent ରେ ଦେଲା ବେଳକୁ you can exercise certain power over that property. So reason being ki you are not absolutely transferring it and you will get back that property sooner or later. So ଯଦି ତା ଦେହରେ ମୁଁ ତାକୁ କହିବି ଯେ ତମେ ଯାହା ଇଚ୍ଛା କର, ସେ ଖୋଳି ଖାଳି କଣ କରିଦେବେ ସେଠି, so that is the reason କିଛି ବି condition put kariya. Section 12 also says ki if it is a condition making interest determinable on insolvency or attempted alienation, that is void. But exception is that it must be the release benefits for a benefit of a lesser. Any condition is imposed, even if that is determining the interest on insolvency or attempted alienation, that is valid. So this completes our discussion today. I'm in a bit of hurry, so if there is any doubt, please quickly. I have just 2 minutes. Okay, before that, please answer me the questions that I put to you. Whether an actionable claim can be transferred. I have an actionable claim. Whether I can transfer that. I
Sir,
asked
I
you a question.
think yes, sir. I guess, sir.
Sir, yes, sir.
Yes.
Actionable claim can be transferable.
Yes. Okay. Give me the reason. Why do you think that it can be transferred? The reason though, reason why do you think that it can be transferred? It is an actionable claim, but you're saying that it can be transferred. Why can it be transferred?
Sir, because actionable claims deals with the movable property and the movable property is transferred by written document. Actionable claim is also transferred, sir. I think, sir.
No, I believe that is not the reason. Anyone else would like to try? Because again, I'll specify.
Intangible.
Again, I'll specify that it is a chance that say actionable claim that when you are claiming it, you might get it, you might not get it, but still you're saying that it can be transferred. So why is it that it can be transferred? Asif was saying something. Asif, if you
Good evening.
ask, Asif was answering, trying to answer, I think.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, tell me.
It is a intangible movable property. Though there is a promise to pay, and he is under obligation to transfer such property. While
Obligation, but then what if I can't prove that actionable claim? You're getting it? What if I can't prove that actionable claim? Civil court is affording it as a ground for relief, but then what if I can't prove that actionable claim? So, well, let me just tell you the reason, because I'm in a time crunch. The reason is that it is a specific amount. It is a determinable term of amount, or you say the property in respect of which I am claiming that actionable claim, that is already a specific property. It's your indefinite property. Nahi. It is not like it is a rent. It is a rent. It is if it is a rent, it is a determinable rent. It can be determined. But a specific amount of rent or specific amount of property or specific jinso upare we are claiming that actionable claim. So in that case, actionable claim can be transferred. Now coming to the next question, future offerings, can they be transferred?
no,
Sir.
Future
No, sir.
offerings, there are, let me just tell you quickly, there are two different decisions of different high courts. Calcutta High Court thinks that future offerings cannot be transferred because it is a mere chance. कि ଆଜି ସକାଳ ଆଜି ଦିନରେ କେତେ ଭକ୍ତ ଆସିବେ ଆଉ କେତେ ମାନେ ଦେବେ ଦାନ, ସେଟା ତ କିଛି ଜଣା ନାହିଁ ନା. Do we know it? ଆମେ ଜାଣିନୁ.
No, sir.
ତେଣୁ ସେଥିପାଇଁ Calcutta High Court thinks that no, it can't be transferred. Allahabad High Court thinks otherwise. They think that it is it is ascertainable, କାହିଁକି ନା ଯାହା ହେଲେ ଭକ୍ତ ଆସିବେ ଆଉ ଯାହା ହେଲେ କିଛି ନା କିଛି ତ ଦେବେ. But then let me tell you, ଲକଡାଉନ ଟାଇମରେ ତ ବହୁତ ଟାଇମ ଆସିଲା ଯୋଉଥିରେ କି କିଛି ଭକ୍ତ କେହି ଆସିଲେନି, କିଛି ବି ଦେଲେନି. So what about that? So whether it is a mere chance or whether it is a determined sum of money or sum of amount, uh, there are contrasting views, but I think Calcutta High Court's view is proper, with all due respect to the honorable court. I think Calcutta High Court's view is more proper because still I think there is a chance that ଭକ୍ତମାନେ କେହି ଆସିବେନି ଆଉ କିଛି ବି ମିଳିବ. So just because you are expecting that ki bhakta ଆସିବେ ଆଉ ପଇସା ଦେବେ, କାଲି ସକାଳେ lockdown ହବ, 21 days lockdown, nobody will turn up and you will not get any property. So you transferring that will be putting the transfer into trouble. So I believe it should be treated that way. Somebody wrote a question, but I'm
ସାର୍
unable to.
ସାର୍
Yes,
ସାର୍
yes.
ସାର୍ ଆକ୍ସନେବୁଲ୍ କ୍ଲେମ୍ ଯେଉଁ ଅଛି ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର୍ ହେଇପାରିବ ନା ହେଇପାରିବ ନାହିଁ ସାର୍ ଏଇଟା
Action
ଯେଉଁ
claim
କହିଲେ
transfer ହେଇପାରିବ।
ସାର୍ ହେଇପାରିବ ତାର ସଟନ୍ କଣ୍ଡିସନ୍ ନା ସାର୍ ଟୋଟାଲି ୟେସ୍ ହେଇପାରିବ ଯଦି
ନା ନାଇଁ
ସେଇଟା ସାର୍ ଏକ୍ଜିକ୍ୟୁସନ୍ ହେଇଥିବ ଦେନ୍ ରେଜିଷ୍ଟର୍ଡ଼ ଥିବ ଦେନ୍ ଇଟ୍ ୱିଲ୍ ବି ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫରେବୁଲ୍ ଅଦରୱାଇଜ୍ ନଟ୍
no, but see, my point is actionable claim transfer ହେଇପାରିବ ନା ନାଇଁ, that was my question.
ହେଇପାରିବ ଇନ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ କଣ୍ଡିସନ୍
Yes,
ହ୍ୱେୟାର୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଇଜ୍ ସମ୍ ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ୍ ଅର୍ ଏକ୍ଜିକ୍ୟୁସନ୍
yes,
ମନେ
where is
କରାଯାଉ
that?
ମନେ କରାଯାଉ ଆପଣ ମୋତେ 1000 ରୁପିଜ୍ ଧାର ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି
Hmm,
ତାକୁ ଆପଣ ମୋ ଠାରୁ ଏନିୱେର୍ ଲେଖାଇ ରଖିଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ମୁଁ ନିଷେଧକୁ ଏତିକି ଟଙ୍କା ଦେଇଛି
hmm.
ତ ଆପଣ ଯଦି ମୁଁ ଯଦି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ସାର୍ ନ ପରିଶୋଧ କରୁଛି ବା ରିଟର୍ନ ନ ଦେଉଛି ଦେନ୍ ଆପଣ ସେଇ ଡକୁମେଣ୍ଟ ବେସିସ୍ରେ ହିଁ ମୋତେ ଚ୍ୟାଲେଞ୍ଜ କରିବେ ଆକ୍ସନଲ୍ କ୍ଲେମ୍ଟାକୁ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର୍ କରିହେବ ଅଦରୱାଇଜ୍ ନଟ୍
But ଯଦି ମୁଁ
ଆଜ୍
document
ପାର୍ ଆଇ ଥିଙ୍କ
ରଖିଦେଲି, do you not think that କି ଗୋଟେ document କି ମାନେ କିଛି ଗୋଟେ ତାର କଣ ଜମିରେ ରଖିଦେଲି ବୋଲି କହୁଛନ୍ତି?
ଜମି ନୁହଁ ଜମି ତ ହେଲେ ସେଇଟା ଅଦର ଦେନ୍ କେସ୍ରେ ପଳଉଛି ମୋଟଗେଜ୍ ହେଇଯିବ ମୁଁ ସେ କଥା ସାର୍
ଇମୁଭେବଲ୍
କହୁନି
ହେଇଯିବ।
ମୁଁ ସାର୍ କହୁଛି ଜଷ୍ଟ ରାଇଟିଂରେ କିଛି ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରୁଫ୍ କି ଭିଡ଼ିଓ ଫଟୋ ଆଇଟି ଆକ୍ଟ ଅନୁସାରେ 2000 ମୁଁ ସେଇ ବେସିସ୍ରେ କହୁଛି
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆଚ୍ଛା, you're saying that କି ଗୋଟେ ମୁଁ ଏଟାକୁ actually
ଆପଣ
clear ନାହିଁ,
ସିମ୍ପଲି
but
ଆପଣ ମୋତେ
according to me I really think କି actionable claim କିଛି ବି ହେଲେ ବି transfer ହେଇପାରିବ, but if you say that କି only if it is written and registered that can be transferred, let me just search that and get back to you because ମତେ ବି ମୁଁ ବି ଏଟା clear ନାହିଁ.
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍
Durga, if you have any idea, Durga, what do you think? Any actionable claim can be transferred or only an actionable claim which is written and in registered form that can be transferred? ମାନେ ମୁଁ
Sir,
କାଟୁ
only registered document is transferred, sir. Actionable claim only with a registered document
ସାର୍ ମୁଁ
because
ଏଠି
in
ମୁଁ ସେଠି
absence of registration document, actionable claim is not proved, sir.
ମୁଁ ସାର୍ ଏଠି ମର୍ଟଗେଜ୍ କି ପ୍ଲିଜ୍ ସେ କଥା କାହା କଥା ଉଠାଉନି ମୁଁ ଜଷ୍ଟ କହୁଛି ଆପଣ ମୋତେ ଗୋଟେ 1000 ରୁପିଜ୍ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ଆଉ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ବୋଲି ଗୋଟେ ଆଇଦର ଜଣେ ସାଙ୍ଗକୁ ଠିଆ କରି ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ୱିଟନେସ୍ ହିସାବରେ ନହେଲେ ମୋ ଠାରୁ ସିମ୍ପଲି ଗୋଟେ ଫଟୋ ଉଠାଇ ରଖିଛନ୍ତି କି ଲେଖେ ଏନି ୱେ ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ବୋଲି ପ୍ରୁଫ୍ ରଖିଛନ୍ତି ମୁଁ
ଯଦି
ସେଇଟାକୁ
proof
ଚ୍ୟାଲେଞ୍ଜ
ନ
କରୁଛି
ରଖିଛି ତାହେଲେ can't I transfer that? My question is that.
ସେଇଟା ସାର୍ ମୁଁ ବି କ୍ଲିୟର ନାହିଁ
ମୋ
ସେଇଟା
ହିସାବରେ ତ
ୟେସ୍
କରିହବ, ମୋ ହିସାବରେ କରିହବ, the reason being କି it is a determined sum of money, but still
ସେଇଟା
I'll
ସାର୍ ଟିକେ ଡିସ୍କସ୍ କରି କହିବାଟା ସାର୍ କହିବେ ଟିକେ ଆଉ
I'll get back to you. It's a good
ଆଜ୍ଞା
question,
ଆଜ୍ଞା
but
ହଉ
I
ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ ସାର୍
truly believe that actionable claim can be transferred even if it is not secured by any document or witness, because it is again very subjective. Who is the witness? Whether he has actually seen, what is the authenticity of that witness? ମୁଁ କାଲି ସକାଳେ କାହାକୁ ବି ଠିଆ କରିଦେବି, କାଲି ସକାଳେ witness ଓହରି ଯିବ, ତ point ତ କିଛି ବନୁନି ନା।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା
Point ଏଥିରେ କି ଯେ ମୁଁ ପଇସା ଦେଇଛି and I have a claim over that.
ଆପଣ
Point
ମୋତେ
ଏଠି
ସାର୍
ହଉଛି
1000 ରୁପିଜ୍ ଦେଇଦେଲେ ଗୋଟେ ଖୋଲା ଜାଗାରେ ମୁଁ ଯଦି ପଛରେ କହିବି ନାହିଁ ସାର୍ ମୋତେ ଆପଣ ଦେଇନାହାନ୍ତି
ହଁ,
ତାର ତ କିଛି ପ୍ରୁଫ୍ ନାହିଁ
so that is true. That is true. You don't have a proof, but I have a claim. I have a claim. ତ ସେଇ claim ଟା ଯଦି ସପୋଜ ମୁଁ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଦଉଛି, ମେ ବି ଇଟ୍ ୱିଲ୍ କ୍ଲିୟର ୟୋର ମାଇଣ୍ଡ। ମୋ ଗାଈ
ସାର୍
ଯାଇକି
ୟେସ୍ ସାର୍
ପଶିଲା ଆଉ କାହା ଜମିରେ, ମୋ ଗାଈ ଯେ ଆଉ କାହା ଜମିରେ ପଶିଲା,
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ସେଠି ତ ୱିଟନେସ୍ ନାହାନ୍ତି, ସେଠି ତ କିଛି ମୁଁ ଡକ୍ୟୁମେଣ୍ଟ ରଖିନି, ବଟ୍ ଆଇ ହାଭ୍ ଆନ୍ ଆକ୍ସନ କ୍ଲେମ୍।
ୟେସ୍ ଗାଇଡ଼ ଆପଣଙ୍କର
ଏଇଟା ମୋର, ସିଏ ତାର ପ୍ରପର୍ଟି ଖାଇଛି, ଯାହା ଖାଇଛି, ମୁଁ ତାକୁ ପଇସା
ସିଏ
ଦେଇଛି, ମୋ ଗାଈ ଆଣିଛି।
ସେ କମ୍ପେନସେସନ୍ କରିବା ପଛରେ
ହଁ, ମୁଁ ପଛ କଥା, କିନ୍ତୁ ଆକ୍ସନ କ୍ଲେମ୍ ଟା ମୋର ଅଛି।
ନିଶ୍ଚିନ୍ତ
ତ ମୁଁ
ଭାବରେ
ସେ କହିବି ଏବେ କାଲି ସକାଳେ କହିବି ଯେ ସେ ଯୋଉ ଗାଈଟା ତାଠୁ ନେବାର ଥିଲା ତାଠୁ ତୁ ନେଇଯିବୁ, ମୁଁ ଏମିତିଆ ଡିଲ୍ ଟା କରିପାରିବି ନା ନାହିଁ? ମୋ ହିସାବରେ ତ କରିପାରିବି। Anyway,
କରିପାରିବେ
good question.
କରିପାରିବେ
We'll come back
କରିପାରିବେ
to,
ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ
yes.
ସାର୍ ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ
Anyway,
ସାର୍
we'll come back to that tomorrow, and we'll discuss. No, no, not tomorrow. I'm traveling tomorrow, so I'm sorry I can't be taking your class tomorrow. We'll meet on Monday, and we'll start with CPC once again. I'll take TP 1 week, 4 days. Then next week we'll discuss CPC 4 days once again. But this week it will be 3 days. Forgive me for that. Okay. Chalo, see you guys. Have a great evening once again. I
Good
hope it
night,
was
sir.
productive. Good night. Good night.
Good night, sir.